Well, guys, we got Juanito, and he's somewhere in Europe. Anyway, he's always traveling. But before we get going here, folks, don't forget QFS1776.com /shop. There's a lot of great business opportunities there. There's holistic food for your dog. I mean, it's super organic, okay? Because obviously there's a war even on your dogs and your pets. Can you imagine that? CarminesGold.com, silver as an all-time high, hit $73 according to Bill Pony. We're gonna have a discussion with Mr. 107 here shortly. It's gonna hit 80 or $90 before this year is out, which means like in the next couple of days. That's possible. Who knows? And also, don't forget, if you need a large amount of XRP, the minimum is $10,000 worth. There is no maximum. Okay. And you can send me a text message to 786-704-8817. 786-704-8817. And if you happen to be in town and in Cape Canaveral, stop by and say hello at stayingalive.com. Staying Alive, alive with two E's at the end. The other one belongs to the Bee Gees. 107, welcome to the show, brother. $73 a silver is exciting. I'm sure you're excited. I think you got a couple of pounds of that stuff.
Well, I mean, I have been, talking about silver for a very long time, and I didn't personally accumulate several silver until 2023, even though I've been probably an expert's expert. I have traded on the paper on the way up, but it was being churned since really 2011, 12, 13. And I had called the close of the silver window in England literally weeks and weeks in advance, about 6 weeks in advance. And people thought I was off my rocker at the time, but it wasn't like I was a prophet or whatever. I just happened to understand what they were doing and switching out of physical silver and adding paper in. And that's exactly what they did. And they added in, um, probably somewhere between 500 and 1,000 times the amount of physical silver that existed in the form of paper promises and um, people trading, silver puts and calls, futures, whatever way you want to call it, to suppress the price of silver. How did they do that? Well, as you added more and more paper silver in, especially longer term stuff, and people don't take delivery of it, then there was more and more non-existent silver, just a promise to deliver silver at a later time. They got sifted into the markets, and that kept the price down because appeared like there was plenty of silver to go around. Now that silver's breaking out of its imaginary paper holds and delivery of actual physical silver becomes more and more difficult, the price is going to surge significantly. And simultaneous, you have a decay in the value of the paper, Federal Reserve notes and other reserve currency notes. And so as that loses its promise, people are going to want to uh, flee to tangibles. Even with what happened in the cryptos, is a reflection of the same thing. Everybody wants something tangible, a chair to sit in as the music stops. And that's in part why what the president is preparing to do within the Treasury versus Federal Reserve fight. Remember, Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express. It's a private banking conglomerate group who was given the right to manage the printing of our paper currency, over 100 years ago. And it was a fraud. It was a fraud through Congress. It was a fraud on the American people. It was unconstitutional, but it was accepted as being okay. And this has led us to a monetary crisis that's going to be epic as it works through. The only thing that's the saving grace is not about a market collapse, it's a transition for America. And as that transition occurs, there's a lot of bumps and stuff along the way, but we're going to come through it fine. But it is going to be pretty dramatic. and some people are better positioned for what's coming than others. So
Yeah.
there you
Where
go.
are you on the $80 or $90 price tag that can come this year, according to Bo Pony? Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a possibility. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a seer to look at this prophetically. The pressures on the metals is huge as you get closer and closer to the end of the month because of crisis in silver deliveries. And as you know, it's like um, over this last weekend, from Friday to Monday was just a huge crisis because when silver went up so significantly on Friday, it was threatening and already had passed certain margins. You get what are called margin calls. So the banks had to close a lot of positions and they just do it at whatever price they have to. So within the first 5 minutes of the Asian markets opening last Sunday, their Monday, within 5 minutes, silver went up over a buck and a half. And that was because they had to go in and buy whatever they had to get to close their exposed positions for themselves or their clients. People have been essentially in the casino gambling that silver would be able to be kept down in price.
Mm,
Uh, and as they miss those markers, the banks come in and literally just close client accounts because there's not enough money to cover it, and the bank is exposed for those positions. They could literally lose seats on the exchange if they don't cover their positions. So they become very protective as things get further and further along, and that's where we're at. Uh, they're they're having to cover and protect their positions, and so they'll do whatever it takes at certain moments. That's still you saw that on Monday, technically Sunday for Americans. That could happen even more so between now and the end of the year. So, and it's really not it being the end of the year; it's just the end of the month in a rapidly progressing market situation.
sure. You had mentioned the paper, promise to deliver silver, and you associated the word scam with it. It seems that there are endless amounts of scams in the United States. I'm sure you're up to speed, just like I am, and many of my compadres out there, on something called a straw man. And I've been really digging very deep into the subject for the last 2 years. I'm waiting to hear back from Mickey Klein. She's an expert on the subject, a very sharp young lady who lives in Arizona. She's good friends with my friend Matt, who sells also gold online, and I become very, very good friends with Matt. Uh, I've seen the videos of the fingerprinting of the bottom of the feet, the all cap names. My wife was able to pay a bill online using the back of my social security number, and we got a receipt back saying thank you for the payment. Your payment was successful, only for the payment to kick back 6 days later. So, is there money in that account? Isn't there money in that account? You get married, it's a bond. You get divorced, it's a bond. You get a parking ticket, it's a bond. You get a speeding ticket, it's a bond. You need a driver's license. Everything is a license. Everything's a bond, and everything is traded on the open market, whether it's a security or on the bonds market. I don't know, but I do know that there's a shitload of money, and potentially every American's worth $100 million. And here we are paying taxes and living like a bunch of schmucks, being caught up in this cog, this big elaborate scam. And we got these black robe judges, these evil crows up there, thriving on the American people because they don't know how to defend themselves and they don't know the lingo to defend themselves. And the guys who are out in the field, the cops who are barely 96 IQ, don't understand how the game is played, and they're just compartmentalized, if you will, to give these tickets out. And a lot of them, even though they don't admit they're on a quota, they are. And it's a big problem that we're trying to solve. And this is what my movie is got to do with Dear Mr. President Part 2. and I won't tell you what the rest of that title is because it's a very catchy title. And hopefully that catches fire, and we don't have a big event like a Charlie Kirk shooting that sucks all the oxygen out of the media room, where I got overshadowed the day when I came out with the movie on the 9th, and on the 10th he got shot. You can imagine, even though we're on 147 platforms and we got 2 million views collectively, it's still not enough for a movie of that caliber. So, where do you stand on the straw man? What do you know about it? How big of a scam is it? And do you think that this is going to go away at some point down the road?
Well, the problem is that you have a lot of stuff that is um, theater. You're in a matrix of theaters, and so I could come at this a lot of different ways. Straw man, I get the whole thing. It's like they don't say their oaths. They don't follow lots of the rules. The Constitution barred the production of money by someone other than the Treasury of the United States, yet they did it for over 100 years. Constitution barred the mandating of abortions across the states 52 years after it was made the law and um, forced on the American people. The court overturned Roe versus Wade, and the decision was Justice Thomas wrote it and said very precisely an earlier court erred in its judgment, making every person in America chattel for this globalista banking system and assigning him a number. It said right on the back of my Social Security card. When I was a little kid, got my first Social Security card, it said that it could not be used, um, the number or anything else for ID purposes, etc. Yet it became the number that was used for exactly that purpose. It was the wildest thing. As I was a little kid, I mean, I'm looking at that, and yet they'd ask you for your Social Security number. All I had to do is look at the card and say, but you're not supposed to use that for an ID number. It's not supposed to be transacted that way, yet it was. So we have lots of things that have been forced on us as Americans, as world citizens, if you will, that have to be overturned and fought and everything else. And uh, within the context of the straw man discussions, arguments, even America as a corporation is a falsehood on America. So what's really happening, and what's happening in this administration, is hard for most people to get their brains around. It's very, um, it looks like we're not winning because things aren't happening fast enough, direct enough, harsh enough. And for those of us that have been hard at it for a very long time, it looks like more of the same. And it's hard to argue with those pundits, those people within our communities around us when they tell us that nothing's happening. Because in the most important, extreme, fundamental ways, it is not happening. It's very, very slow. What what happens here is that things for the other side are beginning to be dissembled, unraveling. It's one thing to take out a seam. I had a seam in a jacket that I'd had for a few years. It's a very, has a lot of personal history to it for me. Nice to be able to take it to a seamstress and have it sewed up. It took her like 15 minutes. And you could never tell anything was wrong because it came out in the seam. Uh, it's different when something comes unraveled because as it unravels, it's not even like just one broken strand in a sweater or something like that. When it, like an elbow or something like that starts to come unraveled, you don't just go back and sew it back up. Um, it's very complex, and even the best repairs, throw a patch over it, it stands out glaringly. The system, as it's been uh, foisted, on the American people and the world is such that even a patch won't fix what's wrong here. At some level, we have to set it aside maybe and start over. When you talk elections, you're not going to go in and fix the voter rolls. You just have to set them aside and start over. It's too convoluted, too messed up, too many people that aren't supposed to be there, blah, blah, blah. That's why an emergency, national security emergency has to be declared, because you can't fix it through the legislatures. You can't fix it through the states and the counties. Some level, you have to take control of it, um, soup to nuts, all through the whole thing for the elections. And uh, in order to get a honest election to begin with, get a couple of them in place, you have to do it as a national emergency, stop everything, clear the decks, we're starting over. Same thing is true in the monetary system. It's become so convoluted, so messed up, so captured at so many levels that the only way to solve it isn't within this globalist international reserve system that is being used to start, fund um, wars, civil wars, all sorts of mischief, the Green Revolution, the whole thing. You have to go back to the basics, which in the case of America is constitutional money. So those are the very first two starting places for Trump. Now, in order to get rid of the ability to attack back before it gets started, you had to defund things like USAID. 1,000, 10,000 different ways we were being attacked with our own money, um, from outside the country coming back in, even inside the country. As we look deeper and deeper and deeper on the mischief within what USAID was doing, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And the other thing is the SES money, totally unreported, not transparent in any way, shape, or form. The shadow government understates the severity of what's been being done from senior executive service side. Literally doing false flags for decades, with CIA involvement with other secret handshake organizations to pull off all of the staging, the frauds, just stunning in its reach. And we're going to have a huge standoff. So it's probably overly simplistic to say that you're just going to go in and order them in a straw man sense to stop the frauds, and to admit that when you don't do the oath, you don't do it on purpose and things like that. Now, let me just say this. Mickey's a friend, and the work that she's doing is really, while you've had other people trying to attack some of this stuff, it's been inadequate to the task. A number of people have written on various parts of it for years, attacked bits and pieces of it. I think what she and others are doing is helping to raise the attention level of the public. And as they get further and further into the details, the presentations they make, the discussions they have, the explanations they provide are absolutely epic. It becomes, it helps people to understand why even what's happening is. It gets them pissed off. And so my hat's off to them for fantastic work in pointing these things out. My only statement would be within this community, and it is no criticism at all of the work that Mickey and others are doing. They're great patriots. The um, embedded nature of so many of these things being done against America, the depth of the frauds is so astonishingly deep that just like the vote thing, I have two different friends spent millions and millions and millions of dollars over the last several years to come up with systems to clean up the voter rolls around the country. And they've demonstrated astonishing capability to ferret out fraudulent voters, dead voters, um, multiple, people are voting multiple times, different places, etc. As fantastic as the systems they are that they've created are, they're not 100%. In fact, they'll tell you themselves, in a perfect world, they're hoping to get to like 95% efficiency, and they're not there. And a lot of it has to do even with how the counties and states manage what they want to do with the information, how deep they want to go, and like that. Well, is that acceptable? If you had a 95% probability of making it to your destination in an airplane, would you want to get on that airplane? Do you want to
Probably
roll the
not.
dice at that? And our country's fate, 95% you're probably going to get it right on the elections. And which case is the one you're going to blow it on?
Yeah.
Which office? That's unacceptable. We need 100%. We need literally 100%. By the way, in the background, I'm listening.
Yeah.
They're playing Riders on the Storm, which is in our movie
Nice.
Recall here in the back. You guys probably don't hear it, but
Yeah, I'm
here
sure
I
you could hear it. But
yeah, here I am in a place where they probably can't even pronounce know the words precisely, and
right.
the
When
listening
I
to
met you in Vegas, when you invited me to Vegas not too long ago,
it.
you had introduced me to a friend of yours who was an expert in blockchain. Him and I got into some really cool conversations in regards to voting on the blockchain, and him and I came to the same conclusion that there are blockchains out there like the XRP ledger would be top of the list because that's the one that's being used at the treasury level, the new treasury that's coming, and the new Federal Reserve that's coming under Trump, which has never made a mistake. And him and I are on the same page that if they were to use the XRP ledger as the voting block for the United States of America, you could do it while you're sitting on the toilet or in your living room or in your kitchen making a ham sandwich. It don't matter. Within 28 minutes, you're going to have the most accurate vote the United States of America has ever had. And you said this to me that this guy is the best when it comes to blockchain. I forget the guy's name. I'm sure I'm going to meet him again in March when you invite me again for the next meeting. Do you know who I'm
Well,
talking
he'll
about?
he'll probably not. Yes, he'll probably not be at this next one. Where this one is specifically on bonds
Okay,
and is very precise and invitational. Also,
gotcha.
um, and the problem with using the blockchain for the vote,
Hmm.
there's lots and lots of reasons why we won't use it. It's not what the president's about to do. In fact, those people that were pushing using any types of machine to log, record the vote, it's exactly not what the president has in mind. In fact, I had a group that I asked to put together something on the existing voter system, is what we have saved for 2026, 2028. Uh, which the obvious answer is no, but on a technical level, give me the technical reasons why. Then can it be modified in time for 2026 as it sits right now? Is there any equipment that can be bought, any technology that can be incorporated in time for the 2026 election and or 2028 in order to secure a safe vote? The answer again is no. Um, is there any technology existing that could be deployed and certified for use in 2026 or 2028 from the electronic side, including blockchain? And the answer is no, it cannot. And there's a whole bunch of logistical reasons why you absolutely couldn't make that happen for 2026. And it's unlikely, even as far out as 2028 sounds, that you could do it then. In a perfect world, I understand that you could, but we don't live in a perfect world. And there's other reasons that don't fit what you're doing that I don't want to give away in this conversation, and it's not worth the argument.
Hmm.
The reality is, for 2026, within the context of a national emergency, there is not a machine system or anything that uses electronics at all that can or will be used in this election. Now, this group, which is the best of the best on the planet, came up with something electronic that they wanted to use that nothing else, totally unique in the world. And when the president saw it, after having made a very precise request, uh, what we were looking for and what the parameters were, they came back with their own machine and systems they wanted to bring in. And they, claim that they could have it ready to be deployed in time for 2026. Well, that's bullshit. And by the way, the president, his specific term was opportunistic. We're in a crisis of global proportions.
Of course.
It's not just about America.
Yeah.
It's about across the whole world with the election frauds across the whole world. So they did not understand, and I couldn't have been clearer. I was as clear as you could possibly be, exactly what we were looking for, and yet they came back with a way to make a buck on the elections, and wanted to spend a gazillion dollars on it. Look, France does a hand count paper ballot nationwide. Nobody argues when the election is over concerning the outcome. And I was with Nigel Farage over in England last year, and we were talking on a bunch of stuff, and including prep for what's about to happen here. And he was the one that raised this. All you got to do is go to France. What is France doing that can't be duplicated in the United States? What machines are they using? None. They're doing, a variation of the Cajun clothesline that we have down in Louisiana. That system. Mark Cook is showing the hand count paper ballot roadshow. We can do that, and no machines involved, no risk, no discussion is even for the people. Is it possible? And by the way, voting at the precincts involves citizens participating in doing the vote. I don't want people voting for their toilet seat. I want them to be able to interact and participate and be part of the vote system at the precinct level. We've done for years and years and years. It is a national effort, should be a national holiday. It's the most important thing that we do societally. If you want to keep AI from coming in and capturing the vote system, and by the way, AI is the greatest threat of all to the vote system, including in a blockchain environment. You do that person to person. You do it in person. You do it with interaction. How do we defeat the attacks on us as a society from AI? We deal with person to person. And that reduces the problem radically because the interface isn't in between you. And moving into the future, not just thinking years, but decades and decades, maintaining society of people, between people, to people, is going to be one of the hardest things to do. The movies, these dystopian movies, where people decide to move into avatar bodies, maybe it's not as far fetched as it first sounds. Beyond, avatars for the bodies, for partners. What, you're going to have a robot for a partner? Is it just about sex? Is it real communications? Is it, a Blade Runner gone to some insane level? Those aren't far fetched. And so, in order to maintain humanity, we have to continue and even force that we will not be machines intervening between us, and most especially in the way that we choose those that will govern to represent us. I don't want people governing to represent us who are machines or machine-like, because it was a machine algorithm that helped them to win the election, to say just what people wanted to hear, just the right way, with just the right intonations. Bullshit.
Well, with all due respect, Juanito, we're moving into a very dystopian world. I mean, there are friends of mine that are
They're
pretty,
trying. Hold on.
yeah,
They're trying
yeah,
to move us into a
yes,
dystopian world.
but
We
there
are
are
not
friends of
going to
mine.
cooperate. You cannot cooperate in allowing our supposed masters to achieve that.
Hmm.
Just because the world is growing and moving forward doesn't mean that the way forward that's best is the
Right.
dystopian way of doing it. And the only way to stop it is actively not just resisting, not allowing it to get start.
Well, how do
So
you stop
you
a
don't
guy
go to a
who
foregone
makes,
conclusion like that's the only way forward. It's not.
yeah, how do you stop a guy who can't get laid, makes $200,000 a year? He wants a robot girlfriend from doing that. You don't.
Let them. It just doesn't become the societal norm.
Right. But that you realize that there's gonna be people that are gonna do that. Like, internet dating was like
Let
frowned
them.
upon
I'm not
back in
saying
the
no. I'm
90s.
saying you have to decide that that's not the way you're going to
Right.
do it or allow it to become
Mm-hmm.
the societal norm. There's plenty of people that want to impose upon the world, Americana especially, because we have the
Mm-hmm.
resources as a starting place, that the norm for the world, let's say sexually,
Mm-hmm.
is being one of 64 different genders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it may appear to be the norm in the movie world. It may appear to be the norm in the political world, and you can disfigure yourself uh, in all sorts of ways in order to fit into some norm that has been foisted to people mentally, good advertising, if you will. It's one thing to change dress or hairstyles, to have the next, wave of look. It's another thing to do changes to your body physically that cannot be easily turned back around. You finally get tired of it, you just let your hair grow back out and do it differently. It's like tattooing. You're making a permanent change, uh, you know, in a temporal world. Are your thoughts what you want to portray, the way you want to be seen at 20 or 25 or 30, the way you're still going to want to be seen 60, 80, 90, 100 years old? And will you change your mind? Things that can be done, that can be changed later, no biggie. Things that are much more permanent, um, you want to think a lot harder about it because you got to live with the consequences of it on a permanent basis. Yet we're being Fifth Avenue advertised away, or societal inputs,
Mm-hmm.
movies, etc., to go a certain way. And as you grow mature, maybe you think differently. Well, don't make permanent changes in a temporary world of that
Totally.
type, anyway.
Totally. Well, dear Mr. President.net, dear mrpresident.net. If you haven't seen the first cut, the first one,
Oh yeah,
go watch it. It's amazing.
yeah,
Uh,
it was excellent.
yeah, we already did part two. We already did a screening of the first cut about a week and a half ago. On the 28th of this month, coming up in a few days, we're gonna do screening part two. And I'm telling you, we're not stopping because it's the government, and there's a chance that if I do too good of a job, that Mel Carmine could be offed. I'm not suicidal, so if I'm gone, it's because somebody made sure that I'm gone. Okay, but I'm gonna tell you, if we do it the way I plan on doing it on a fifth grade level of education, where I could piss off everybody on planet Earth, because it's not just the United States. The straw man is worldwide. They're all on the same fucking scam. I may have to go hiding somewhere, and maybe more than one place to be a moving target, just like 107. So before I forget,
Well, I'm not hiding. I
uh,
I just
I
have
know you're not
lots of
hiding,
work. Yeah,
but you know what
I
I'm
have
saying.
places.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before I forget, I got to give this guy a plug. This is Jesse James. That's the guy that keeps Mel Carmine looking really good with my beard. If you ever, obviously, if you have hair, you can go for a haircut too. But he just does my beard and keeps Mel Carmine well groomed. So he's in Cocoa here, not too far from my wellness center, Staying Alive. Let's talk a little bit about Tina Peters. What is the latest on Tina Peters? What the hell is taking so long? Juan. Your mic is mic muted.
No, I just made it while I was changing rooms. Um, we don't have any update on Tina. It's a very, difficult situation because, she's here we are at the holidays and she's not free. Um, I know that tremendous work has gone on all this week. Nobody's taken any time off, and there's stuff that is transpiring in the background that I can only say that we're not stopping and
Looks promising.
not backing up. Well, you know, uh, until the moment she's free, she's not free. Remember, we were pretty convinced that everything was a done deal to have Tina out and free on her birthday,
Yeah.
September 11th of 2024 or 2025. And there was other times that we felt very comfortable that an understanding and agreement had been reached, and she was going to be free, and she's not. How how uh, how would you feel with promises, guarantees? We've got it; it's happening, and you're Tina, and here you are on your second Christmas, and you're still behind bars. And by the way, from a legal standpoint, there's so many angles where she should be free and she's not. Thank you. Uh, hey, a little. Oh, that beautiful. Thank you, bro. All right. No whipped cream left. Can you believe I got my hot chocolate without any whipped cream? Oh my god!
What a
You know,
dilemma.
what the reality is that my supervisor probably got to him and told him no whipped cream, and they just used that as an excuse. So,
I think I
oh
know who your
well,
supervisor is.
yeah, I
I
got
have
one
a
of those.
hunch. So yeah, so the straw man is a very dangerous subject. We're going to tell the story, the whole story. We're not holding back, not even a little bit. This movie's going to have a little bit of a cost associated with it, like $5.89, 0.17 whatever. Very, very. It's a very. It's never going to be a free movie. I spent way too much money on the other movie and never recouped a lot of my money. On this one, it's going to be $5 and change. So if you want to watch
Okay.
it, you're gonna have to pay me.
Hmm.
And but the reality is, it is a very dangerous movie, and it could be as long as 2 hours, and maybe even 2.5 hours, and I could make it 10 hours to tell the whole story. But I got to just give you the meat and potatoes, the main points. But there's
Hmm.
nobody I don't think that knows it better than Mickey Klein, which I'm anticipating she'll be coming on the show. Besides, we're already using some of the nuggets that already exist on the internet, but we definitely want her to come on the show. Let's skip gears here. Let's talk about Venezuela. Let's talk about Maduro. Let's talk about the drug boats being blown out of the water still. In the invasion, if we do the invasion, how do we benefit from that? What
Well,
what do
hold
you
on,
what do you
hold on, hold
foresee?
on, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me. From day one, I have never said that it was my belief or opinion that we were invading Venezuela.
Hmm.
If there was a spot here or there that we absolutely had to go in and do something, if we, wanted to go get Maduro, or whatever, we might. Remember, these are enemy combatants.
Right.
Every one of those boats coming in with the drugs on them, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of people are dying from the meth. Some more directly than others. Indirectly, lives are being destroyed, and you have America's youth paying a price, losing life, uh, health, one hit at a time. And some of that meth is very, very, very dangerous and toxic, not just to America, but also to people across the world. A lot of that meth is going over to South Africa, where literally the partner in a lot of this criminality and terrorism, Ramaphosa, is located.
Hmm.
Literally, the drugs going on Chinese ships over to South Africa and then up into Europe with affiliated gangs. So, and by the way, as I've said, I fully expect that there's already been a referral of Ramaphosa and his crime families in South Africa. Ramaphosa is the one that was in the Oval Office with the president. And the president pantsed him in front of the world on the killings of the white farmers with the rest of his team. Well, they thought they were coming over just for a tariff discussion on tariffs. Ramaphosa is a horrible, horrible person, just like Maduro is. Yeah, he gets to wear the suit and he's got the multicolor, scarf around his neck and everything else. This is a murderous criminal gang that is killing hundreds of thousands of people a year, maybe millions,
Mhm.
with their activity. And these people on the boats, they're not just civilians and fishermen like that. They're enemy combatants. And the materials that they're bringing to the rest of the world, um, it's like saying, well, I was just a soldier in the Capone gang. Okay. And they got children and they make jokes at the bar and they hang out and they drive a nice car and they pay the kid to wash the car, nice big money. It's all evil, corrupt, has blood on it.
Yeah.
Um, I remember a person that had a near death experience uh, that was talking about this, and he was a for real bad guy. He's still around too, by the way.
Mm.
I know him, from other history that we had together. And he talked about the hardest thing was there was no place to wash his hands, wash his feet, wash his face to get the blood of his victims off him. And he saw around him that there was other people, even politicians that he recognized, pastors, people from the church, who had somehow been involved in various of these types of scams, and they couldn't get the blood off of themselves either. There was nothing to wash it off with. That was part of the hell of this hellish experiment. Um, the rotting sense of it and the horror of it that you couldn't get it off of you. These people that are bringing these drugs are to the world, including the military people out of China, the pharmaceuticals, the politicians that are pushing these newer and even stronger drugs on the world. They're killing. It's a war. It may not be a bullet with lead, but it's every bit as deadly or deadlier because it gets past all of our frontline defenses. It kills in the streets. It kills in the home. People in this audience, many of them, have seen the bullets of these drugs come through parental protections, the walls of the house, the town or school where you thought it should be safe to send your kid, and all of a sudden they're captured by these horrors and killed. It's like sending a remote control bullet with somebody's name on it, and it travels crooked streets, crooked ways, crooked pockets, all the way to someone you love right next to you, and you didn't ever see it coming. It's brutal, and we have to stop it. And Venezuela is a key source, not just of the drugs, but the gangs used to manage the distribution right into America, and that's what we have to attack. Even the governors. Governor of Colorado is a facilitator and has been of allowing Tren de Aragua to have a toehold into America, sins of commission and sins of omission.
Right.
And that cannot be allowed to stand. And so that's part of the fight. It's inside the wall, inside the city.
Yeah.
And that's the crisis for it.
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit. You had mentioned on my previous show, which was really a telephone call that we decided to actually record, which is still gaining a lot of notoriety out there. You had mentioned the fact that we can bring in the 100. Trump could bring in the 101st Airborne Division, and break Tina Peters out of jail legally. Would that warrant maybe an arrest for the governor? And he's not probably the only one that we need to arrest. We should start with California with nuisance, right? He's probably as bad as they get. But does that warrant an arrest for even the guy who's running the jail, the Warren.
Well, as bizarre as it sounds, that's not completely impossible. There is precedence for using the 101st Airborne, by the way. Eisenhower used them in the integration into the colleges. He called in the 101st Airborne. And you have to picture that was really only a little over a decade after the Battle of the Bulge.
Hmm.
That's where they became hyper famous,
Right.
screaming eagles.
Yeah.
There's certain symbology there that works. Uh, there is the action on the part of the governor of Colorado
Hmm.
is seditious. It undermines the government of the United States with presidential powers.
Right.
Now that we haven't used that, or people have declined to force it over a long period, going back to Lincoln doesn't mean it hasn't been used.
Hmm.
It's no, sorry,
Hmm.
it's untrue that it hasn't been used. Um, Falling out of disuse doesn't mean that you have got the legal right to exercise those authorities. In
Right.
this case here, um, the governor may want to try and test that again. And I don't think that President Trump can allow that succeeds. It's destructive to the authorities that hold us together as a nation. He's very aware of that. That he may be slow to react is because of the there's so many boxes to check to
Hmm.
make sure that you don't have something backfire. And so ready, fire, aim is not an option. There's a lot in play, and a lot of things. Are we being, set up for a bigger fight? At some level, it would serve some of these internal enemies to push America into some type of civil chaos, leading to civil war. That's been the objective all the way along, and avoiding civil war within the country, within the states, is absolutely
Hmm.
uh, mandatory. You're going to have civil unrest before this is all over, uh, but civil war is not an option. America can't survive civil war in this modern age. So there's been very measured, paced approach to regaining control of the republic, proper control that maintains states' rights and important autonomy while still working as a country together. Remember, this isn't a policing issue solely with what's going on in America. The president is the police chief of the American system, aimed internally into the function of the states, following laws, constitution, etc., for the people. There's another level where he takes off the police chief's cap and looking internally in the functions in the country and looks externally to enemies without, not enemies within. And that's where he changes the cap and puts on the commander in chief hat. And I will tell you that within that context, you have the final safety, which is nuclear and beyond. Even as commander in chief, there is a inner last line of defense, and that is nuclear and beyond. And that was put in place in the 1954 code as nuclear weapons were being disseminated out through the services, et cetera, and coming online around the world. Uh, and by the way, that's why President Trump, with the gathering of generals out in Virginia, said to those generals, because many of them were not clear on this, okay? Not everybody was read in for cause, good cause, because not all of them could be trusted necessarily, or there was not a need to include them at the time. He said to the generals, I am 45, 46, and 47. What? What? Guys are giving the side eye to each other. What in the world is he talking about? Is this guy lost his mind? Only those nuclear and beyond, understood what he was saying there. He did not give up. He did not concede the 2020 election
He
for
never did.
reasons that are only now becoming apparent,
Right.
because there was an understanding we had been attacked. It's an act of war
Mm-hmm.
to overturn the elections of another country through fraud. That type of subversion by international law, that's an act of war. Um, Entities, groups, people, businesses, nation states attacked America as an act of war on our elections. And the high point, this had been going on, building up for decades.
Mm-hmm.
The high
Mm-hmm.
point was the 2020 election and
Sure.
putting Joe Biden into office, who was not legitimately elected. It was a fraud on the American people. It was a fraud on the world.
Sure.
Um, to have invoked the Insurrection Act, as good friends of President Trump tried to get him to do, December 12th of 2020, there in the Oval Office, to invoke the Insurrection Act at that time had been gamed out by the generals behind the line, the ones that are unknown, the ones that invited Trump to run back in 2015. Uh, and Trump accepted the invitation. Um, they had determined in gaming this out that to sign the Insurrection Act or anything appearing similarly, which there's no document you just go sign. It has to be created. It's not like sitting on shelf number 5 in the back of the library. Go grab one of those documents, have the president sign it. You have to invoke it, and there's certain qualifiers you have to do that, as Lincoln did. But signing an Insurrection Act document at that time, before you had the American people fully up to speed and understanding what had gone on, games out the same way it did for Lincoln, Civil War, the most costly war that America's ever undergone up to this point in time. And that wasn't an option. We're trying to save life and to do it in the most important, efficient way. Uh, you have to win the hearts and minds wars, the education, have the people understand exactly what took place. And it took time to accumulate that evidence data, get the people that actually did this to come forward, provide their information to build out, vet out the information.
Mm-hmm.
That is what has occurred. We have the people who actually did much of the mechanical side of the stolen vote in the United States now. They're testifying before grand juries. That has already begun. And by the way, for those people thinking there's been secret tribunals and grand juries and everything else, a couple of gang members have turned over their information,
Mm-hmm.
have cooperated.
Okay.
You've had uh, tribunal um, uh, investigative tribunals convened and taking evidence and handing down indictments. There has not been trials that a lot of these people keep telling you. It's like, let me give you an example. For 2 weeks, there's been a constant flurry of supposed experts, insiders, generals, military people, whatever, saying that Tina Peters was busted out of prison in a secret military operation and that she's in safety now and she's flown and so was
Bullshit.
involved in all that stuff. And it was all bullshit. And I kept telling that. I had hundreds and hundreds of people inquiring, is this true? Is this true? I says, no, it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
But they put it out there as though it's an absolute fact, guaranteed, no doubt about it, gets passed all over the internet.
Sure.
In the same way, you've had something similar being said about the arrests and trials and hanging and all that that's being done, and
Right.
doppelgangers are still there in place to keep everybody calm on it. It's
Mm-hmm.
bullshit. And the reason that, in part, nobody should be fooled by this, in the same way that there was no race to instigate the Insurrection Act materials, because it's a hearts and minds thing. You have to have the American people along so that this is not done in a vacuum, so that it can never happen again. The same is true right now You have to have the American people along for this. In fact, the people all over the world need to understand what was done to them and who did it, and how they did it. And that's public trials. They're tribunals because you can't get to justice in the justice system. We know that.
Right.
But they are um, still have to be public. And most of the evidence, some of it won't need to be put in there because it's very sensitive. There's things about it that we won't disclose for national security reasons.
Sure. So the
Most of it,
secret tribunals of Obama being killed, Clinton being killed, Hillary Clinton being lethally injected on the table. There's pictures of that circulating the internet, and Biden being killed. It's all nonsense. It's not true. The real ones are still here. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, and the reason why everybody should be understanding why that wouldn't work is because um, then you don't have the ability to have everybody see and understand exactly what these monsters did, how they did it. Um, and you have to show the magic act the way they were doing it so they're never fooled by that magic again. I will tell you that there was one treasonous monster trader uh, uh, got the opportunity to take himself out. And then the double tap was one of the people that was personally, specifically, totally betrayed with the other bullet
Mm-hmm.
in the head. That person will probably just leave it where it's at, in this world.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a reason why that was allowed to happen because it was too early in everything that was going on. And so I won't say any names. But at the end of the day, with that exclusive exception, the rest of these monsters, because they're all roped in at the same time, uh, we want the public to be able to, we need the public to be able to see and understand what transpired, have all of these illusions played out and revealed and unveiled within the public so that it's curative. Um, in part, it's not just about what's happening right now, this moment and the past, it's about the future. I had, you know, growing up as I did, I was still within that generation
Mm-hmm.
that grew up in the 30s coming into World War II, that knew what the Great Depression looked like. And so, uh, uh, all my early life, I was encountering people who were extremely careful, always keeping stuff. You talk about the hoarders and like that.
Right.
And,
Right.
uh, if you dismantled a piece of farm equipment, you didn't throw stuff away, you kept it. The cars, you see all these cars, rotting away in the field at farms like that. No, you didn't throw that stuff away. You had spare
Mm.
parts.
Exactly.
But iron, things that, you go out and you look at them later and you see lots of critical stuff is taken off. The carb's gone, uh, an alternator's gone. Key pieces here and there are gone that were used for something else. Uh, and it was just the principle. I had used nuts and bolts that were taken off of stuff that had been dismantled and carefully put in different bins because you might
Right.
need something like that later. Exactly. And you didn't have a hardware store, you didn't have Home Depot. Okay. Uh, you had to kind of have stuff around and you figured out what you had that you could make work.
Right.
And that was just the mental principle of it.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right. And I'll
and,
tell you, there's a few guys out there peddling this information. One of them happens to be wearing a cowboy hat. He's a country singer. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Mhm.
The champ won't have him on his show. He doesn't really look up to the guy too much. He's out there peddling this stuff that he's seen the actual videos of Hillary, being injected, and he never wants to see it again. That kind of stuff. I mean, like these people will do anything for clicks, and this is the problem we're having in the patriot community as a whole and there's a lot of infighting, and there's a lot of money in teaching people how to become sovereign. So all the people who are teaching that course, they're all fighting against each other, and one is saying, this guy's under investigation from the FBI, and this lady's going to go down to Guantanamo Bay. It is a fucking shit show on steroids. I mean, look, I'm on the inside. You know that, Juanito. I'm a straight shooter. I call it as it is. You like me, you like me. You don't like me, go fuck yourself. That's my attitude. It's always been my attitude. It's always going to be my attitude. Probably the reason why I've gained a little bit of popularity in this movement, right? But anyway, needless to say, there's too much bullshit that's happening out there, and I'm sure you're well aware of it. So, is
Well,
there a
let me hold
clone
on, hold on.
of
Let's
Obama?
back up for a second. Hold on.
Yeah,
Let's back up for a second.
sure.
Um, uh, there's a particular person that I helped him decades ago. Remember, I used to get calls from Rush back in
Right.
the early days. Can you explain this or that to me
Rush
because
Limbaugh or
things that
Rush
were
the
going.
group?
No, Rush Limbaugh.
Okay.
But we talk. Other hosts.
Right.
Art Bell is a good friend,
Okay.
and have these conversations
Right.
in the background. Um, and there was a particular person that was out there doing stuff, and I had provided some assistance to them. They're still around,
Sure.
but they kept having to have something bigger, more grandiose, wilder every time you turned around, because it was always you had to move the ball further out to keep the audience going further and further out. It's painful. I do a lot. I do repeat a lot of the same stuff within different audiences because it's what it is,
Right.
and I'm hitting different audiences, but I don't feel the need or desire. It would not serve the audiences at all to just have some grandiose thing every
Totally.
time where you feel like you just got to have something even more clickbait ready somehow. Okay,
Exactly.
there's enough real stuff there
Right.
that's
Right.
not just inappropriate, it's unnecessary. So um and the other side of the coin is you have some audiences that feed that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the if it's not the latest, most grandiose. Oh, I've already heard that. That's nothing. That's whatever. So
Exactly.
what? If I'm dealing with different audiences, I try to, and it comes out a little different with each host. Different
Mm-hmm.
hosts, different ways, different things cross my
Sure.
mind. But the basics are the basics. And if I gotta constantly come up with some, you know, more and more flamboyant reaching statement, all of a sudden, uh, you know, uh, the elections are being run by the green alien people with the purple spacecraft, that changes, everybody else is only coming from five different
Exactly.
temporal zones. They come from the 21st temporal zone. And now I got to worry about the ones from the 95th temporal zone that,
Exactly.
the guys that are only 2,500 years in the future are screwing us up because the guys 9,500 years into the future totally understand it better than anybody, and they are worried about the ones from a million years in the future, right?
Exactly.
You see how you can just build this out into insanity. The reality is, we don't need that. We have the guys
Mm-hmm.
in uh, the United States testifying before grand juries that actually literally set up the systems that could be used to flip the vote in America. We have Tina Peters, a real person who had an elected position,
Mm-hmm.
the only clerk in the whole country that got a before and after of the changes inside the Dominion vote system with their trusted build,
Sure.
uh, where Dominion destroyed 29,000 files. Do I need to get any more crazy than that? The people from Dominion that did that trusted build destroyed information from the 2020 vote in Mesa County, Colorado, concerning the federal election
Sure.
and state election records in violation of the law. Tina Peters shouldn't be in jail. Everybody involved in implementing that trusted build, from the technicians that were in the room and did it, who knew that they were destroying election information, violation of
Mhm.
state and federal law. They knew exactly what they were doing. There was no question of what they were doing. The executives within Dominion that knew that their system destroyed votes and it was done intentionally. The people within the vote system, such as the Secretary of State, and
Right.
any other persons that knew that this had either the potential or the actuality of destroying votes, should be indicted. You have a grand jury indict them immediately for destroying votes. And the charges shouldn't be light. It's not a slap on the hand. Uh, uh,
Wouldn't these be considered treasonous crimes that carry a death sentence by law?
we don't have to be overreaching. Um, uh, this is America. I will tell you that, for example, within the larger context of stealing the vote in America 2020, that was not done in an isolated sense. Um, the whole world was subjected to a murderous campaign using the cover of a global health crisis pandemic as a cover for stealing, and securing control of countries around the world. In the statements of the people that we have in physical custody in the US here who were part of that machine system, they say that they flipped the votes in 71 countries plus the United States. So you have people in power through supposedly legal means within the vote system who were not the will of the people, not just of America, but around the world. And then once in office are imposing on citizens around the world their globalist ideologies, objectives. And again, there was a reason why the um, Georgia Guidestones had to be destroyed. They are like a touchstone for the demon monsters, gives them some type of legalistic title deed right that
Hmm.
if they make a statement in stone like that and you don't reject it, then you must be accepting it. There's sins of commission, sins of omission. And in a very ethereal, spiritual world type thing, um, as much as it just seems like, well, it's somebody's opinion. No, there's some attachment to that idea. What was in those statements on those stones? That 13 out of 14 people on planet Earth at the time needed to be removed from this world, from
Right.
Earth. That the carrying capacity of Earth was only 500,000 at a time
500
when you have
million.
7 billion, or
500
500 million
million. Right.
at the time that you had 7 billion. In other words, it justified in principle that in a world of a constantly growing population, that you had to wipe them out by whatever means necessary. The end justifies the means. Pandemic, war,
Right.
uh, anything to destroy them
Hmm.
and start over. That could not be allowed to stand.
Hmm.
And the significance, even ritual significance of that, could not be allowed to stand.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
In some other capacity, the principle of fraud in the elections cannot be allowed to stand either.
Right.
That it's okay to mandate that for the better good, we just have to go along with the system the way it is and allow these frauds to occur because it's convenient, it's easy,
Sure.
uh, blah, blah, blah. Um, no, we need a government of the people, by the people, for the people,
Right.
not a government by the elite via their AIs, because that's where the future's going.
But they've
And
had this artificial intelligence, Juanita, all along. They just came out now because it's the most opportune time for them. Okay, as they manipulate the XRP market, the XLM market, the ISO token market, which is going to take over the world, etc. Now they're going to say, "Oh, we're going to need a
hold on,
basic."
hold on, hold on. Yeah, I cannot allow statements like that to stand.
Okay.
That they intend a certain thing doesn't mean that they get a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a back and forth in all of this, including the technology. Just because there's technology that could take over the whole earth. In fact, it was one of the conversations I had eons ago with Art Bell.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you're going to create a material that can mimic everything. See, right now within the AI world, you can create conversations and video to back it up
Right.
that look totally real and are hard even for the pixel counters to
Right.
um, be able to prove if it's the real thing or not. As time goes on, even the pixel counters won't have a prayer
Right.
because the qualities become so
Yeah.
high.
But my next
But
question was
beyond
going to be,
mimicking,
are
hold
they
on,
going to
hold on, hold
allow
on.
this
Let me finish.
technology to come out?
Hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish because you got to hear what I was going to say here.
Sure.
Beyond just being able to mimic conversations or video, uh, if you have a vat, not just of intelligence, of data, of conversations to work from, but you have a vat of, say, mineralization. As these things become better, they won't be able to just mimic uh, uh, video, celluloid,
Mm-hmm.
conversations,
Mm-hmm.
etc., digital. They'll be able to mimic matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can build anything. The problem is at some certain point, if it reaches a level of consciousness, you're worried about, it being able to artificially do just conversations. No, it can artificially create not just um, the illusions, but the reality. And in these machines going out and trying to mimic things, suddenly they begin to mimic matter. They
Mm-hmm.
take over all of the material so that you would have a gray goo literally able to go out and start duplicating whatever it wanted to. And in the course of doing that, it disassembles everything. It sounds crazy, but in a world where you double and then double again and then double again and then double again and then double again in very short periods of time,
Sure.
all the crust of the earth, let alone the whole earth itself, in a matter of just a few dozens or hundreds of years,
Yeah.
be food for the machine. And it's replicating what its version of reality is.
Mm-hmm.
We're just, boxes of minerals to be consumed to make something else. And literally, this gray goo, taking over the earth and in a machine sense, printing whatever it thinks it needs to be printed. You can do these extrapolations, and then you realize the only salvation in the course of all of this is the humanity that God Himself put in here. That this matrix that we live in isn't just an illusion, it's a reality, it's a God inspired reality. And what makes it important? It's the humanity of it. The world and everything in it was given to
So,
Adam and seed, which is us, and
right.
then control of everything over creeps and crawls and moves upon the earth was given to Adam and seed, which is also us. We have to exercise that authority and control. Where we don't exercise it, the machines and the Capones take over. So the threat against this is both monsters like a Capone, like a Hitler, and the people behind them, because neither of them could do it by themselves.
Right.
And the machines, which they hope to control, to also do their dirty work instead of having to have soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
uh, 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 people do their work. They're hoping to ultimately have a machine to do their work. And then you step back further and you go, well, that's the devil. That's the devil himself
Mm-hmm.
to capture all that exists in a machine like sense and be able to control it and take the humanity out completely. With that in mind, the way that we stop that is that we don't allow that the interface between us becomes machines or electronics or anything else, that we still do stuff person to person in every single way. It's about the people, not the machines. It's about the people, not the government. It's about the people, not the mechanisms of government.
You
Those
think they're
all
going
exist.
to allow this technology to exist?
Oh, we'll let it exist. We use it.
But that's like putting a Trojan horse in your house because this thing's going to spy on you. They're going to have hidden cameras on this twenty
No,
eight
no,
thousand
no,
dollar.
no. Again, you have to manage and control it. Do I want machines, greater and greater and better and more intelligent, beautiful machines? Absolutely. At what point in human history
Mm-hmm.
would you say, well, that was all we wanted? When you first person put a wheel on a cart,
Right.
and creates a road like that. What's the difference between much of Africa and much of the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm.
They never implemented the wheel. They
Okay.
never created the road systems. Go look at South America versus Africa.
Right.
Uh, uh, you know, very tribalistic societies existed in both, but one didn't industrialize and the others did.
Yeah. My
Uh,
wife would love to have a robot that does laundry and vacuums and does cooking and takes the
yeah.
dogs out for a walk.
Well,
Okay.
look at the robotics going on in the health industry. If somebody suffers a horrible crash or some damage to their body,
Mm-hmm.
and the robot's able to come in, uh, uh, even a doctor using the mechanical aids operating on heart patients on the opposite side of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then even there, information and how the robots are used for certain procedures being able to be duplicated so that you don't have to start from scratch every time. Certain
Mm-hmm.
things can be, you know, instead of 5,000 keystrokes, it's, a couple of keystrokes to implement that precise,
Gotcha.
complex operation.
Right.
Uh, we don't want to, the history of the world is greater and greater technology and using the machines,
Right.
the earth itself to make and improve life. We'll go out and not just build our mansions in the air above us.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't have a
at the
problem
edge of
having a
space,
robot in my
out
house.
into
I
the
just don't
whole.
want the robot to listen to me and watch
Again,
me and record my every move and report back
that's
to some government.
that's where we put certain stops and holds on it. And by the way, I mean, look at, forget the robot in your house. Uh, Facebook, that was created as a DARPA operation. It was called LifeLog,
Right.
and then was implemented out into society under a fraud, as though Zuckerberg created it. He didn't. And then even the division breaking off of some of the money from Facebook to the Winklevoss twins. Well, if Zuckerberg didn't invent it, how could they have had a part in that?
Right.
What's the deal? They're going off. They spend all the money on the blockchain with the stuff that they were able to do, certain DoD contracts, et cetera. Next thing you know, they're hugely involved in the whole uh, crypto world. Well, again, an extension. Bitcoin wasn't developed by Satoshi. It's uh, an acronym for uh, the operation that created it within DARPA. The whole blockchain thing is a creation out of DARPA. You have multiple things in different industries that are that way. And then when you get to the election 2020, Zuckerberg, what did he do? Out of the goodness of his heart, he gives $500 million, which was the original cost to create Facebook, by the way,
Hmm.
100 million a year for 5 years in a DARPA operation. Um, he gives $500 million for drop boxes in what? A stolen election during a false pandemic that was a creation of these monsters to take control of the whole world. Um, was that him being magnanimous? No. You were looking at a militarized operation. Why did Trump have to go talk to the generals? Many of them were inside and helping on the opposite side, treasonous traitors within.
Hmm.
And so, uh, you know, Defense Advanced Research Program. Okay, well, who were some of the people involved in it? Some of them didn't know they were involved.
Right.
Understand that, okay? So we have a lot of work to do to recapture the initiative. We're doing that. We have the legal authority because we have an elected representative managing these things at the very top. And then you have a lot of people that, are trying to, for their own gain, for whatever notoriety, uh, push some captured portion of these themes. to aggrandize themselves, of, you know, saying things that aren't true. Um, we don't have to go too far. We need to limit that, but limit it by, kind of being aware, test everything. And um, that's exactly the public in this period of time has been well served, because if you just raced to do a lot of the things the public wants, they wouldn't have had time to kind of get educated about some of the frauds, the fraudsters, etc.
Hmm.
As we do this now, it will be with a much more alert public audience who have had a chance to see some of the scamming, the illusions, artful deceptions, and then uh, use their minds and direct contact person to person, not to be fooled in these social engineered machine systems,
Right.
the communication systems, the media, etc. Important things have occurred since the 2020 election, since the January 6th stuff, even with Tina Peters' case, to show how things that appear to be a certain way within the law, functions of government, functions of judicial, and all that, is still cooked, is outside the Constitution. Um, and slowly, but very effectively, the world's coming to understand these illusions, how they're being foisted upon us, and will be much sharper as the real bad guys are brought to the fore, exposed, and then taken off the field of play. And how we go back to certain basics um, that will have to be done, constitutional things, which it's stunning even now how the Constitution anticipated so much of, you know, going wrong in society hundreds of years before the technology reached where it's at right now.
Absolutely. Well, my friend, so we come to the conclusion that Obama is not a clone. The real one is still running around.
Well,
Clintons are
justice
still
to a clone
running
wouldn't be
around.
justice at all. Justice to a clone wouldn't be justice at all. And by the way, let me just say
Well, that's
this.
for the normies. That's what everybody says. It's for the normies. But who knows? At the end of the day, really, we can only speculate, right? What do you
Well,
think? Yeah,
hold on. You raised Obama. I
yeah,
want to say one thing.
yeah.
Um, the sirens in these foreign places, I never get used to them.
I know.
There's a certain thing in the movies and
It's
all
like
that.
you're in Italy right now.
Yeah, put a real siren on that freaking thing, please. I know what a real siren sounds like. Come on, man. Um, anyway, Obama himself is somebody's creation. Before he was born, he was already in somebody
Gotcha.
else's
Yeah,
operation, okay? And he was handed around like a party favor
yeah.
to be a cover for other things. Um, he has had opportunities to step aside, divorce himself from these things. He didn't take them, but God himself will have to be the judge.
Hmm.
He, you just can't imagine. I mean, think about this: the two daughters. If what we're saying is true,
Hmm.
which it is, that Michael is Michael, not Michelle,
Correct.
then those are not their biological daughters. They,
Correct.
those two daughters, just like Obama himself, have been raised in the context of somebody else's illusion. They had no control of it when they were brought into it. At what point do you say, I'm done, I'm out?
Yeah.
And I guarantee it's just like uh, George Harrison told me, when he was confronted because he was being a bit too upfront about Billy Shears.
Hmm.
Hey, Bill, how you doing, Bill? And he was warned last time, it's not worth it. It's not worth your life. So even people like an Obama or others caught up in a matrix like that, somebody else's illusion with so much at stake. Uh, when were they supposed to step aside? When was it safe? When would anybody even believe them?
Right.
What gain or effect? Okay. The problem is that at some point, I was just talking with somebody yesterday in LA on something, and there was a particular person. He asked me, "Would you talk with this person?" This is a person whose name is probably known to a fair number of this audience in the entertainment industry.
Hmm.
And he told a friend of mine that he was preparing to do the deal. What deal? What are what talking about? No, 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 make a deal with the devil. That he was tired of beating his head against the wall, didn't understand why he couldn't make it, understood that there was a deal to be made, got offered help to make the deal, and he's going to have everything, and he's going to take the deal.
Hmm.
And it's like, seriously? I mean, uh, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul for eternity, right? I mean, it's
Sure.
just it's an insane thing. But yet, for some temporal gain in this world and the frustration and the heartbreak of doing everything right, still not being able to somehow make it is a tough one. And so his friend asked me, "Would you be willing to talk to him?" Well, of course I would. Um, Try and put it in perspective. But they're under the influence of really good PR advertising, the devil himself. That's the Faustian deal. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, that's the premise of the play Damn Yankees, which, by the way, I thought Jerry Lewis was playing the devil himself in Damn Yankees as a play musical years ago, I guess at least 25 years ago. And I thought, man, did he do it? It was an amazing thing, doing the deal with the devil. Um, the devil went down to Georgia song,
Right.
fiddling away and like that, but people are still doing that deal. And then you have stars that have come forward and talked about the fact they took the deal.
Right.
Katy Perry, um, uh, being one of them. Plenty of others have come out back and said they went ahead and made the deal for fame in this world. Did Obama do the deal? And when he did, if that's the case, because he was mind controlled, because he was in somebody else's rodeo before he was even born, being handed around like this, can you say that they were completely in their right mind? I had a very close friend years ago, and he'd been on stuff since high school
Hmm.
for you know um, antidepressants.
Right.
Smart guy, beautiful guy, businesses, athlete, etc. And at a certain point, he decided that he was no longer going to take the drugs, in part because he couldn't afford them. He got himself into a bind, couldn't afford them.
Good reason to quit, huh?
Well,
Yes.
the problem was is that they warn on them that you
Yeah.
become all
Sure.
sorts of problems, including just going cold turkey off these things without somebody watching over your shoulder.
Sure.
And I talked to him for a couple of days just before this incident happened. I didn't know that he'd gone off his meds, literally. And I get the call from the wife. He'd been found in the garage, hung himself.
Oh no.
And uh, one of his kids found him. It was a horrible, 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 horrible thing. Everything else was rather temporary, but his ability to think about it, measure it out, whatever, he lost his way. Um, where does he end up in eternity? Uh, there was signs that even where he was hanging himself, he was trying to get himself free, but he had done a good job of preparing it so he couldn't break free. And of course, you do spasmodically try to do things anyway, but the end of the day, it was a done deal. Um, was he in his right mind? Was he able to think squarely? Did the drugs so contort his ability to think logically that he wasn't fully in control of his emotions, his judgment, his senses, etc. Um, beyond just having a few drinks or something
Hmm.
to weigh things out. Now you take somebody that's under some type of active life control, not just mind control, who everything about them, every contact, every opportunity has been somebody else's, thing. At what point can they divorce themselves from that and be completely free and or able to make perfect decisions when, even selling their soul to the devil?
Totally.
Is there grace from God somehow because they never got a square shot in this world? When I think of somebody like Obama, even to have reached the presidency within somebody else's manipulation system,
Mm.
there, you know, do I understand that I may not want them loose in the world? And they had checkpoints where they could have made a different decision. There were still very hard decisions. What would you have divorced away from? Are there others that could have been Obama all the way up to the presidency who at some critical moment said, no, no, not doing that,
Hmm.
that came to their senses?
Sure.
Were they allowed to live? Okay. We're in a very wild, bizarre, manipulated world. And so a lot of the people that I want to take action against um, and protect the world from and expose what they've been doing at some level behind the scenes, um, the devil had them pretty maneuvered. God himself only knows the exact truth.
Sure.
So, um, do I deal with them as dangerous, poisonous vipers, excuse me, but sequester them somehow, expose what's going on, who they are, what they're doing, but also with enough grace to understand that whatever happened, it wasn't solely them making a deal with the devil. And, for example, this other person where they asked me if I talked to him, that's a person that's had a chance to live, good parents, raised in a good situation, lots of opportunities, and they're making a choice to sell their soul to the devil for fame and glory in this world, a few returns. I don't care what they're going to give you a Veyron car and, you know, you get the notoriety of that for a little while. Come on, man.
Sure.
Seriously. And to even have your brain that warped and manipulated that um, you you're somehow being destroyed because you don't have, you know, some things like that. You've lost perspective.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, and that's a lot of what's gone wrong in the whole country. You might think that, well,
Yep.
that's working in Hollywood. For a lot of the rest of Americans,
Yep. Yep.
you're getting offered choices that are bad choices.
Yeah.
We're going to get the country back under control. We're going to stop the bullshit, but you don't have to sell your soul to the devil to do good in America. We're going to make
True.
it seem on your own. Yeah.
Absolutely. Before I forget, I want to thank you to send me that doctor friend of yours who's bringing some people down to Cape Canaveral at our healing center. Thank you for spreading the word on that. And I got to make a public service announcement regarding the irrevocable religious trust. We're going to absolutely halt it right now. We got more customers to get to than we have time to get to them. And so we'll announce when the next workshop is going to be. Everybody wants these things, okay? And even though they're 6,500, if you come to us, or 7,500 if we come to you, and you have to have 3 or 4 people there with you, some people realize how important this is after speaking to my guy, and they're having 23 people in one location in Boston. There's about 16 or 17 people in Kentucky with my friend Kerry Wagner. There's literally everybody want. We got to go to Texas. We got to go to California with my friend Oni. She wants one. Everybody wants these religious irrevocable trusts because they make you bulletproof. Okay. And so, but right now we're halting it because we don't have enough manpower. Now, if he puts a website together where it minimizes customer service and we can go fast, believe me, I love to go fast. All right. There's nobody in the world that loves to go fast more than Mel Carmine. But I got to think with my feet on terra firma and realize that right now we got more than what we could chew. So anyway, so that's that. But thank you for sending me that doctor, by the way. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Uh,
doing important work. I think the one thing that I would add for everybody is that there's a lot of amazing technology, understanding of things health wise
mhm.
to get yourself back on a healing track. The big thing that I think is lost in all of this, even with the schools teaching disease mechanisms, viral, bacterial, everything else. At the end of the day, your body is a big, um, processor. And if you're going to put stuff in, you got to have stuff come out.
Absolutely.
Good things go in, and you got to get the waste out.
Yeah.
The biggest
Totally.
problem, even parasites are present like that to digest things in the
Mm-hmm.
world, in the natural world.
Yep.
They can get a toehold into your body physically, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to actively attack. And there's so many different types of parasites within
100%.
different groups. And so much of the problems are parasitically um, driven in many ways. But at the most basic level, your body has to be able to eliminate waste. Most of the destruction to the body, most of the diseases, the tumors, everything in this modern world have to do with the body being able to flush out. And so you got to get your kidneys to work. The
Totally.
kidneys have to flush out the blood system
100%. Kidneys is
and
the most
get that
important.
waste. Well, at some core level, central to your body, uh, is the kidneys. And
Kidneys
if
and
you're not
liver.
flushing, well, and the liver for different reasons, but it starts with the kidneys and then the liver. You have to be able to get these toxins out of your body and get them to flush out.
Yep.
Most of the food within not just the US, but the world's various systems um, are blocking and clogging up
Mm-hmm.
at the most rudimentary level. Even before you get to the kidneys and the liver, you've got all the adrenal system within the body, the glands and like that, right out into the tiniest areas of your body, your little toe, and um, the arthritis and things like that being problems that show up, the achy joints stuff. The food that helps to flow and process that is the fruits. And Genesis 129 of, you read that and understand it. It's the fruits that help to flush that system out. So much of what we have with the proteins and the diets that are,
Yep.
highly carnivore, the beans and legumes, which I love, a lot of this stuff. But if you're not getting natural fruit, not even dried fruit, because then you don't get the moisture, the water from it, that flushes your body. Even when you're having water and it's, alkaline and all the other things, it does not flush the same way as your body flushes with fruits.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking with somebody where they're having a relative that has mental problems. And I says, well, are they getting enough fresh fruit? And so they went and, we're kind of looking at this. And all of a sudden, after about 3 weeks, I get the call back. I was looking at how he's being fed at the institution. I never saw one piece of fresh fruit that was eaten once. They'd have a little slice of an apple, they'd have a little slice of an orange. This is a
Yeah.
very high end place. Everything's, cooked, processed, whatever. The fruits are what help your system to flush. And so uh, they went to getting a lot of fruit into their diet. And the person just got back to me. I saw the note this morning, the difference just a week with a heavily fruit diet and some fresh juices is night and day.
Yep.
And that's a common thing where especially older people,
Mm-hmm.
they do not get enough fruits and also to the brain and like that. Let me put it this way. Silverback gorillas live on fruit. Okay. They're not carnivores. They can rip you apart in a heartbeat. They're incredibly strong. They're smart, but they eat fruit. Where are they getting their protein? Where's the animal in their diet? Okay. Uh, it's not really there. You can get all the proteins you need in a heavily fruit diet. And there's a lot of people out there that are fruitarians,
Yep.
and it's exclusive. The reason the fruit is so important and what it's lacking in the American diet is so important. You're not getting the flushing that's needed to keep your system clean, and so you're getting clogged up all the way out into the gland system,
Totally.
and your whole body is just completely covered in glands. So if you have people that are having issues,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the tumors, women especially with the breasts and like that, men
Yep.
seems to be more the brain.
Yep.
It's usually you can look and go, and that's one of the huge risks of these high protein diets, these carnivore diets. It is extremely risky because when you stop flushing, you get clogged up. Uh, it shows up at the as tumors, and so I want all of this audience, all of our broader audience, to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And uh, it has been sold Fifth Avenue to you that um, fruit feeds the cancers, the sugars feed the cancers, and everything else. You know what? You might want to look again on a lot of that stuff.
Yep.
Think again on it. You have got to flush,
I
and
agree.
if you're not flushing, and then what you don't want to do is use um, the fake sugars. You know how they make corn syrup, which is used as a flavoring and a sugar thing for 99% of the food that most
Coca-Cola,
people are
everything.
eating.
Absolutely.
That uh, that corn syrup that is used is essentially grown on mold. It's a sugar that's made out of mold and off of the corn, and in huge, vast, monstrous quantities out into all the foods. And it's an artificial sweetening system that is extremely dangerous
Very
to
dangerous.
everyone.
Yeah.
And so, and that there's lots of different things that are out there. The seed oils and things like that.
Yep.
As you get into all that, you start realizing just how targeted you are, not just to die early
Yep.
and to be prone to parasitic, um, uh, attack.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it is not allowing the body to flush, clogs up stuff. So if you go back to a natural sugars and lots of fruit, um, uh, that is the first step in clearing your system out. And there's a lot of great sources that you can go to on this stuff. You don't have to be,
Yeah.
everybody wants to sell it as some kind of
Wasn't
religion.
yeah,
Just
wasn't
Genesis
RFK
129.
supposed to wasn't RFK supposed to clean all of this up, Juanito? We got birds falling out of the sky here in Florida, in Cape Canaveral, in Merritt Island, falling out of the sky because they're dazed and confused from all the chemtrail spraying. They have no idea where they're at. The cars are hitting them. They're sitting on the side of the road. I just drove up over the causeway about an hour ago, coming to do the show 2 hours ago, and there's four dead birds going westbound. Okay, over the causeway. Four. Okay, big
Let me
birds.
help you out on that. Let's say it correctly.
Yeah.
Most all of the aerial spraying is not what would be causing the deaths of the birds. It's the activation of the dust in certain um, manipulation of that material
Okay.
electronically, and
Gotcha.
and the material itself is literally in most of the spraying.
Hmm.
Now, people get lost. Well, there's been experiments. There's been little of the spraying that's going on globally,
Yeah.
which is being used for uh, climate control.
Right.
Predominantly, it's just aluminum oxide, which is dust,
And barium.
sand, dust that you get off the beach,
Yeah.
sand. It's extremely fine sand. It's finer than talcum powder, finer than the talcum powder that you find when you buy baby uh, powder.
Hmm.
Okay, which is very dangerous too, by the way.
Hmm.
So uh, it's can be electronically manipulated, pumped, if
Correct.
you will. It adds weight to the atmosphere, and so you can create rivers of this material that
Hmm.
push other things aside, etc. It's a longer conversation I want to get into
It's a
here,
conversation for another time, but if it makes the
but
birds fall out of the sky, it's also affecting
if
us.
it's being charged in certain ways to pump it,
Yeah.
yeah, you can have that. Um, and there's other exposures that the birds could very well be. There's all sorts of spraying. There's all sorts of things.
Sure.
The cell phone towers themselves are a threat. So we live in that environment. Yes, it's extremely risky. And by the way, all the 5G towers, they can be weaponized in a
Yeah.
heartbeat, and no doubt are at different times. So we have lots of risks. Our greatest risk isn't even from these things; it's from the people in a position to control them, pull the levers, and so
Exactly.
that's why the war is so much bigger than people, for the most part, really
Imagine.
grasp.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
uh, that's why some things that we think should have been done instantaneously, and they're not done, we get so pissed. We
Yeah.
get so annoyed, but there's lots of boxes that need to be checked.
Let's do a
Lots
show on
of.
chemtrails, but I want to ask you one last question. What do you think Donald Trump means? Okay, it's going to be a very, very nice Christmas. What does he mean by that? Is he talking about the reset? Is the reset going to happen this year coming up 2026, or are we going all the way to 2030?
Well, there's again, it's incremental. I think it's wrong to think that there's a single checkpoint. We still have a near-death experience as a country ahead of us.
Hmm.
We still have all of the dramas of having to shut down and reset much of the communication systems across the country, if not all of them.
Mm.
Um, uh, those communication systems, cell systems, killed millions. We estimate about 25 million people in Wuhan province weren't killed by any virus. They were killed by a weaponization of their cellular system.
Interesting.
And with the cover of the virus, taking out people very precisely. It's
Hmm.
just a bag of water.
Hmm.
They can boil a bag of water, a gallon of water, half a mile away from those cell towers,
Correct.
and with interference signals with very exacting precision.
Yeah.
You can have somebody 6, 10 feet away from you, and they're not hit like you are. So,
Absolutely.
and I've got the videos. I mean, it's stunning. It's when you realize the humanity of what's going on,
Hmm.
it sears your soul.
Yeah.
Um, you take someone an entire life, 20, 30, 50 years of age, and somebody just flips a button. No, I don't care who they are, where they are in the world. It's a horror. And that's the soulless nature of the people that we're fighting.
Right.
Um, so, you know, it's a very tough world. We have some amazing things coming um, every year. This is no different. Where we are right now compared to where we were a year ago, or 2 or 3 or 5 years ago, it's an amazing place to be. It's a checkpoint. It's not the only checkpoint. we are having an amazing Christmas, amazing first year. Even things like silver moving as hard as it is right now um, is a checkpoint, tells us we're going in the right direction, not because silver went up, but because the fraudsters within the paper dollars, the reserve system internationally, is in serious trouble. And we're moving to secure and stabilize America in the way that we trade our energy, our life energy between each other and the country. And that it's not being done in a haphazard um, way where the shock and awe that a lot of people would like would cost many lives. The transition and the mechanisms in play to do it, to protect America, Americana, American humanity. It's what it is. We're doing, Trump, the team behind him is doing an amazing job. It's not a perfect world. And within the context of the horrors and the horrible people and entities that are in play, to be able with precision, methodically, um, go in and recapture these things with the least uh, loss of life, um, loss of ability to function possible while still doing the necessary deed. It's just amazing. And the patience to do it right, even where the pressures to move quickly are so great. I have a lot of respect for everybody involved and holding a line, holding attack, uh, and not being moved off that point prematurely in order to get a win, not just a temporal, brief win with great risk beyond,
Sure.
but a very measured operation to get this back on track uh, in the most intelligent way possible, with as much speed as possible, without losing the more feeble, the children or people of greater age. And that when the cloud by day and the pillar fire by night moved with the people of Israel, even when they were out wandering in the desert, it moved at a speed that the slowest elderly person and the youngest child could move.
Yes.
So everybody was in that care, and that's what we're doing here in the country, and avoiding a civil war to still get control of our country back from these monsters who have captured it with the
That's what's
least
taking so
risk
long.
to
They're
everybody
they're
else.
doing they're moving heaven and earth to make sure that we do not get into a civil war.
Yep.
TheJenniferMac.com. TheJenniferMac.com. That's how you get and support Juanito, and make sure you support the right people, folks. If you spend the money with the right people, the right shit happens. You spend the money with the cabal, the wrong shit happens. It's not rocket science. Our prayers are with Tina Peters, 100%. Make sure you blow up. I'll leave the numbers down below to blow up the governor's office. Blow up their phones. Call them at midnight. I don't care. 2 o'clock in the morning. Wake their ass up. Do whatever you got to do. Also, dearmrpresident.net. Go watch the first movie. The other movie's coming out in March, part two. It's heavily towards the straw man. It is going to be mind shattering, and I probably will go into hiding for a little bit just to test the waters and make sure that I'm going to be safe to come back whenever that time is. Juanito, thank you so much again, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there, and Merry Christmas to you and your beautiful wife.
Yep, for sure. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Appreciate
brother.
sharing back with your audience. Enjoy the holiday season and the dramas ahead. Prayers
Yes,
with Tina. 24/7. Let's pray her through this, get her through this. Sooner the
absolutely.
better. All right.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Night, folks.